Welcome to part 2 of the Dungeons and Dragons video with me and my dad and our special guest here, Brandon.
Hey y'all, it's good to see y'all. This is part 2 of the Dungeons and Dragons. And of course y'all know me, I'm Dad, Colton.
And hi, I'm Brendan. I'm going to be their Dungeons and Dragons expert. I played for many years and hope to be able to help with things that they don't know.
So, like we said, we know about the cartoon and stuff like that. We don't know other information. That's why we have our expert here, because I'm not an expert in this, and neither is Colton. So, we had to bring somebody in who knew more about it, because all we know is the cartoon.
The 1980s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
So, with that said, we are going to turn the camera around and we're going to look at the next installment of Dungeons and Dragons, so y'all stay tuned.
So here we are at part 2 of the Dungeons and Dragons action figures here. We've already done one, which was Hank, which was part 1. Now we're in part 2. So for part 2, what we're gonna review is...
Which one are we going to add to Hank's group?
I think I'll go ahead and try Diana.
Alright. Hank is going to get the acrobat to join him in this part.
So I will need to scooch the camera up.
So, this is an acrobat. Okay. Diana, I thought it was strange, but watching Dungeons and Dragons, it was a cool deal. It just, I didn't know what she represented until I saw the introduction and he said acrobat and he gave her is that a bow staff? What type of staff is that? Is that
Yeah, so the interesting thing about Diana is in 1983, Dungeons and Dragons had a class called Acrobat. And it has since changed to what we would now call a monk. And what they are, you got to think of your Bruce Lee, your, Walker Texas Ranger, those kind of hand-to-hand combats. She has here is a quarterstaff. So it's just really like a stick that you see a lot of martial arts people using. And that's really what she has. It's to help her, jump over things or to climb or to hit things with. But it is very interesting to see because this is the first character we've seen that they've changed the name since 1983 to Monk. But she was originally introduced as the Acrobat.
Okay. Now, the staff that she has, can it extend or get smaller or bigger? Or longer?
So, there are magic items in the game of D&D that do work like that. From my understanding, hers doesn't. It just kind of gives her more abilities and can help her climb or jump a little bit more.
Okay.
And I think that's really just kind of what hers does.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
So here's Diana's packaging here, and as you can see, it is basically the exact same, like with all the other Dungeons and Dragons figures. You have the same Dungeons and Dragons roller coaster here. And the 40 here, which is the 40th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. And a picture of Diana here. And the same warnings and plastic-free packagings here. And the action figure here of Diana. And the same die here. Which we are going to do a little comparison of another die here, because Brandon did brought out some of his dies that matches these here that you get with the action figure here.
Yeah, and the important thing about Diana, she comes with what we call the D20, which is the most important dice in the entire game. And unlike Hank's, where the D8 is his damage dice, the D20 doesn't quite work like that. And in Dungeons & Dragons, to see how successful you are at the action that you want to do, you would roll a D20. And the higher the number, the more successful you are. The lower the number, the worse you are at it. So she comes with the most important dice you will ever use in Dungeons & Dragons.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that. That is interesting to know. So it's classified as what, a D20?
A D20. So the abbreviation stands for Dice 20.
Okay.
So I'm just saying dice. In the books, they say D20.
Okay.
And so that's how they kind of got their name. And like I said, the higher you roll on the dice, the more successful you are at something. So if you wanted to jump over a ravine, of course, if you roll an 18, you might make it. If you roll a 2, you fall in the ravine.
Okay.
You know, so it's really the most important dice when you use it.
Let's see.
And this was the side of the box here that has the exact same picture of the Diana here, just in a different pose here. And on the back, you have the same picture of the action figure here. And her of what she comes with here. And your cross cells here. We've already reviewed Hank, but we haven't reviewed Bobby yet. And on the bottom, you have the same words and stuff. And there is words here, but like with Hank's and the others, it's really hard to see. Because it's all red. But there is words right there, which you can barely see right there. And the same barcodes and attentions there.
And there's one cool thing I found on this side. Right here, Fulton. At the very top in English, they kind of have a little description of what Diana is to the party.
Oh, I didn't notice that until now.
I just noticed it when I looked over at the other figures.
Okay, so it's kind of like a bio.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a quick little 3-sentence bio that comes in all different languages, but the top is in English.
Okay. So what does it say, Colton?
If I can try and show it on camera. Diana is known. It says here, Diana is known for her acrobatic talents and carries a javelin that can launch her high into the air. So I didn't notice that on Hank's until now. And like you said, this is a bio?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on the very bottom, you have a little QR code right there.
Which is another pretty cool Easter egg. So the black part of that is actually a D20. So it's Dungeons & Dragons' logo for the D20, which is their most iconic dice, that they put the barcode inside of.
Okay.
Okay.
And Hank has that too.
Yeah.
And on the bottom, you just have some warnings here. And I think it's now to crack her open out of the box.
And we're going to see what she looks like. So in her bio, they call her staff a javelin?
Yeah, so I think when we think of a javelin, we think of with the pointy spike on the end and things like that.
Okay.
But that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So what they consider a javelin isn't maybe what we consider one.
Okay.
To me, that was more of a quarterstaff or something like that. But that's where it's left the imagination. Anything can be what you want it to be in Dungeons and Dragons. So maybe they just cut the point off of javelin, and that's what she has. But like I said, acrobat is now a skill. It's not as much a class like it was in the 80s. So if you wanted to play Diana in a modern game of Dungeons & Dragons, you would definitely be playing a monk would be your class.
Now, when you say monk, I'm picturing a monk like what you would see off of a TV.
Yes. So, yeah, that's the thing I think that gets a lot of people about monks. They think of the temples and the bald-headed guys.
Not very aggressive.
No. The easiest way I can describe a monk in Dungeons and Dragons is Bruce Lee, Walker Texas Ranger, Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
They're going to run in there and they're going to punch and they're going to kick and they're going to do stuff like that. I guess you could make a monk that's in a monastery. That would be an interesting way to do it because all their abilities are about fighting. So I don't know how peaceful that monk could be.
You know what? Now, since you said that, that's right. They like monks in other places and stuff like that. They train to fight.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot about that. They do. They train in a special skilled art to defend and fight if necessary. I forgot about that. Monks. I'm thinking of an old, medieval monk. I'm not thinking about today what a monk would be. So no, that's very true. Yeah. They can probably put a whooping on all of us, I don't, Oh, she looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I just need to get her situated.
Now, thinking back in the cartoon, I think Diana was a no-nonsense personality. She just wanted to see what she was up against so she could tackle it.
Yeah, I think she was a great, I don't want to use the word, I guess, like companion to Hank, but they were kind of the same person, just of opposite genders. They both understood what they needed to do, and just, what do we have to fight, where do we need to go, and let's go do this.
Yes, I agree with you, yes. Because in a way, she helped Hank be the leader sometimes when Hank couldn't be.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. What I can tell right off the bat, you could see the way she's standing.
She has a lean.
She is leaning this way a little bit, because I think her. Yeah, I think it's her design for her skirt. Well, no, I think it's the design of her boot here.
Her boot?
This little red thing here does hinder it, and I think that's why she's leaning a little bit this way.
You gotta remember, she's also stiff. I don't know.
And her skirt here is just made out of a hard plastic. It's not cloth.
Yeah, it's not cloth. It don't have no elasticity to it whatsoever. It's just molded in plastic.
So I'm gonna have to lean her on the back here. That way she doesn't lean or fall over. And also try to balance her. So I think the problem I have with her is she has a problem of standing up. Because as you can see here on camera, she is leaning a bit this way. But taking a look at her sculpting and the design of her, and I am checking out the box real quick.
It may be that the joints just need to be freed up some. They just need to be moved. When we go off in articulation, we'll have to check that out.
Going to her head sculpt here. Now, her head sculpt does look really nice, but the problem I have with her head sculpt is I wish her hair was a bit bigger, because if I bring back in the box here, you could see her hair in the picture here is a lot bigger, but here you could see it's kind of slimmed down, which you could see here. So that's a problem that I kind of have for her head sculpt here. But her face sculpt does also does look really nice, and she does have brown eyes on her, which, yeah, y'all could see right there, and she does have some orange and red paint on her head crest.
Would that be considered a headband or a head crest?
Yeah, so like when I looked at the outfit they gave her for the cartoon, it screamed 80s Wonder Woman. So I think they kind of went with like a headband, kind of like what we see with Wonder Woman, just some more of a barbaric version of that costume.
That's very well said. I did not think about that. That is excellent representation. That's true. Yes.
And going down to her, like, suit, she is wearing some gold arm bands here, or arm bracelets.
Yeah, I think those are just really more of an accessory piece to the character to help customize her. They really don't bring any special effects in the game or to the character. It's just an aesthetic kind of thing that they went with her costume.
And she does have the brown, like, cloth thing, which is again made out of that same hard plastic, like these, like her skirt here.
Yeah, so if you remember in the original cartoon, she has kind of like a fur outfit. It's kind of like fur pelts and stuff like that. So I think that's the best way they could represent fur in a plastic without actually putting a piece of cloth on there that could get ruined over time or messed up. That's just, I think, their hard plastic kind of fur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to represent the character.
Although I much rather prefer if it was real fur instead of a hard plastic.
Like real cloth?
Yes.
That's what you're saying? Now, the boots, do the boots represent something, or is that just part of her outfit? The boots don't represent anything. It's kind of like the boots, when I look at them, they remind me of, like, I don't know, like Conan or something like that. That's what the boots remind me of.
So I think when they made her character, they're not magic items or anything like that. But I just think that that's the design. They wanted a Conan the Barbarian, like when we think of barbarians, cavemen, what they wore, I think that's kind of what they went with this.
Yeah.
And basically reskinned like a classic Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
As a cave woman.
Okay.
And just changed it in that way. I think that explains the bicep bands, the headband, the way that the tunic's designed. I think just all around, that's why they went with this. Because I think at the time in the 80s, and you can speak on this, that, you know, young women, like Wonder Woman was their real only superhero back then. Now we have so many, but back then, that was their hero.
Yeah, and it was uncommon in the early 80s to see women were just coming into cartoons in the 1980s. they made their appearances and stuff like that, like G.I. Joe and stuff like that. So it was a breath of fresh air to see, you know, this group of people going on this journey, and there was more than just guys. It wasn't just guys. They had some women in there, and so it was very pleasing to see, you know, women come on the stage as far as cartoon and animation.
Yeah, and I think as far as like D&D's concerned with that, I've probably played with just as many women as men.
Wow.
So, and that really started with this, because you think about it, women became represented in this cartoon as far as D&D, and now, you know, it's a game for everybody. It's not just like the guys are getting together to do this.
Right.
I play with many women that are great players that know everything, and just they have the same imagination. And so I'm really glad that they made this change in the 80s and let women be a part of the game just as much as the guys were.
Right. I couldn't say better. He said it, and it's so true to where we're even today. So many people play.
Yeah. It's the largest growing game in the world as far as role-playing and stuff like that. And it's only going to get bigger. And I'm glad that it is a game that everyone can sit down and play.
And moving on. She does have like a gold necklace
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like a piece of armor.
or armor.
Yeah, that they designed to kind of hold on her the top part of her chest, kind of like what we would see in a bathing suit or something like that, where the women have something wrapped around their necks, and that's just the way that they designed it.
And you too have some orange here. And going down to here, she does have the same gold with some little dots of orange here. And coming to the back here, there's not much else to her on the back. And her boots does, like you saw, have some red.
Those are kind of like, I guess, rib ties.
Yeah, like laces to keep them tight.
Okay.
You know, because you got to think about when we think about like medieval times, we would look at this as like a cowboy boot or something like that with the design, but that's like their shoelaces on these back then. That's what kept them tight around their feet. And modern day, with our technology, they would just be a design. But back then, it was actually to keep them tight and on their feet.
Okay.
And all around, she does look like how she is on the Dungeons and Dragons show. But the problem I have with her is her hair on the action figure here, because on the box artwork, like you saw, it is really like a bit
More poofy. Like more poofy. And
But here,
y'all, that was a thing in the 80s. Believe me, I know, I was there.
Every time I see this haircut, I think of like a gym teacher. like an 80s gym teacher. Every time I see it.
Yeah.
And of course, the problem I have with it, which you could tell, she is leaning a bit this way.
Yeah. When we go through the articulation, we'll see about getting that leaning out. I don't know.
But for her articulation, head can swivel all the way around, and she can look, well, she can't really look up really well because of her hair, but she can look down a bit. Not much, just a bit down. And a little bit of a head pivot.
Head bobble.
Her arms can rotate all the way around, move in and out on what looks like a soft ratchet. Kind. Yeah, it looks like a soft ratchet. Yeah. She does bend at the elbow, but
It's really stiff.
Yeah.
pretty stiff. No. I'm not gonna do it. But does she? Yes. She does rotate at the elbow. And her hands can rotate all the way around. And she does have a hinge joint here. So you can move her hands. Yes. Her hands up and down on these joints here.
So she has a very little small hinge wrist that can pivot.
Yes.
Okay.
She does have a... Yes. She does have a ball joint at the torso here. But it is kind of limited.
Kind of the same way Hank was, where he can slightly turn, but you can't just completely turn him around.
And her legs do move, and this skirt piece is made, well, it is kind of a flexible material, but it's like a harder material. I think it's kind of a harder plastic material.
That might be just if you want to move her legs forward a little bit or something like that. You can.
And her legs do move up about there. And her legs do move back about well, they can move back, but the problem is the skirt piece does hinder it a lot. And her legs do move in and out. Only about yeah, only about that far. And no thigh swivel, if I can tell. No thigh swivel. Double jointed knee. This one moved a lot better than.
There you go. See if you can move them knees. That's what needs to happen.
There we go. So she does have double jointed knees. And the feet can move up and down on a hinge joint, and she does have an ankle pivot. And she has the same holes on the bottom of her feet, so you can plug her into some stand if you have it. And that's it.
Okay.
And for her accessories, the only accessory that she comes with is this, which is a bow staff.
Yeah, so on the packaging they call it a javelin.
Javelin.
Yeah, we would probably call that more of a quarterstaff, walking stick, something more of that line instead of javelin.
Okay.
And she does fit it nicely into her hand like that. But she also does come with another javelin.
Yes.
Which is this. And as you can see, it does have these two effect parts. And this is so that you can have her like she's turning it around.
It's to represent her spinning her staff.
Yes, spinning her staff. And you can also have her hold it in her hand. Just like that. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the regular one. And just like with Hank's, she comes with the same die here. But this one is a little different here.
Yeah, so this dice, we call it a D20.
D20.
It's the most important dice. And, for example, this would be the dice you roll for Diana to attack one of the minions or Venger or anybody. So, let's say Diana needs to roll a 12 to hit the minion. So if you want to give that dice a roll. Nat 20. That is the best you can get. She immediately hits them and does double damage on the 20. But any number over 12, she would have hit the minion. Any number under 12, her strike misses. She doesn't do any damage.
Wow. Is that the reason why it's called the most important dice? Wow.
Yeah, so this dice is going to be used for any check, any attack roll, anything. So, not to get too much into it, but let's say you wanted to do an investigation of something, or you wanted to do an acrobatics or something. You would roll this to see how good you are at that skill. So, for instance, if you wanted to plow a field, okay, for nature, then okay, roll a d20 to see how good you are at plowing a field. And if you got a 2, you probably lost a foot. If you get a 20, you have acres of corn.
Okay.
To kind of put it in that perspective. So you nat 20'd, which is the best you can do. We call it a nat 20 because it's a natural 20. A nat 1 does the opposite. So a nat 1 is the worst that you can do on the 20-sided dice, which generally is going to result in something bad happening to you.
That is important information I did not know, y'all. That is why it's called the most important dice in the field.
Yeah, so like when you're watching the cartoon and Diana hits a minion or she hits something, I want you to think of she rolled this dice and was able to hit them. So every time they do something, every time they set a trap or they jump over something or anything they have to do, there has to be a check for. This dice was rolled, and when they fall on their face, they rolled low. When they jump over something successfully and do this cool move, they rolled high. That's what this dice represents in the game.
Okay. I understand now.
So now when you go back and watch this cartoon, and for instance, I know multiple times Cavalier, we don't have his figure quite yet, but Cavalier always falls on his face, or he always does something and it doesn't work out.
Yeah, so he's always rolling low.
He's always rolling low. And that's where just the dice, it's a game of dice rolling, because you could be really good and one bad roll and your character falls into the abyss, you know. But every time that they do something on the show, that dice was rolled, and when they fall on their face, or for instance, I know once again we don't have his, but Presto, when he pulls out of the hat and it's never what it's supposed to be, he rolls low, and magically when he needs it, he rolls high, and he's able to pull that out of his hat when he needs it.
Okay. Interesting.
So that kind of explains why certain times it's like, why did he not get what he needed, or why does Cavalier fail, or why do certain things like that happen? It's because in game, the player character rolled low on a d20.
Now, y'all, that was information to me I did not know, but looking back now, thinking about the cartoon in my head, that makes sense.
Yep.
Because if you're looking at it from just the cartoon's perspective, you're not thinking of that aspect. But if you're looking at it from somebody who plays the game, they're thinking on that aspect. So, different ways of thinking that did not make sense until now.
Yeah, because like let's say I want to jump over a wall. That'd be an acrobatics check. And so we could just simply roll this dice. Oop, fell off.
I got it.
But let's say it falls on a 9, like it shows up here. You didn't jump the wall. You jumped and fell from that wall because you didn't roll high enough.
Right.
So that might better explain in watching the show why you're like, why does he just fall down? Or why do they not hit him? Why does this not work? Why at random points, it's once again the dice rolls what the dice rolls, and it's very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of in the hand of fate.
Yep.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If not, it won't.
There's a saying around D&D tables, sometimes the dice giveth and sometimes the dice taketh. Because you never know what you're going to get with them. You have the same odds of success and failure.
Yep.
And for a size comparison, here it is next to the...
Yeah, so this, I brought out one of my personal sets of D&D dice that I personally play with. And this is just a comparison to the size of what you get with the figures.
And from what I can tell, the numbers on this die here is at different spots, and the same for this here.
Yeah, so every dice on the D20 is going to be the only dice that is 100% random. You will rarely find two dice that have the numbers the exact same. That's what keeps it so random. It's not a spin down like the other ones that kind of go in order. You never know what that dice might roll on, because just like right here, our dice don't have the same numbers in the same spot. There's 20 numbers on that dice, but you never know how yours might roll.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why when you're sitting at a D&D table, people have 25 sets of dice, because when that one starts rolling bad, they grab another one. Like, we're just going to throw that one out to the pasture and give me another D20 to start rolling, because that one ain't working.
Kind of like a cursed dice.
Yes, yes. And when you find a dice that works for you, you will hunt people down if they took that dice. You will get it.
And that's about all that Diana comes with. And we're just gonna
We're fixing to do our final thoughts on Diana.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. So be right back. So there you have the Dungeons and Dragons Diana figure. But very cool looking figure, but a couple of problems I have with her is like her hair could have been a lot
Poofy?
poofy, like on the box artwork, because you could see here on the toy, it's a lot like slimmer.
It wasn't that maybe she get some Aquanet, or it wasn't 80s enough.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. The jokes of the Aquanet in the 80s. Here we go.
And the articulation for her chest and her legs is really limited because of the skirt piece and her chest. Because I wish that the feathers, if you can, were a lot clother, like really fabric, instead of just a hard plastic. And another problem I have with her is, you could see she is leaning a bit to the left here. But those are my issues I have with her. But everything else about her looks really cool.
Okay, yo, for me, it did not register until I was told, and it kind of makes sense, how this was kind of a mixture between a Wonder Woman and the way her design is, and
Yeah.
It did not dawn on me until it was told to me, and I have to agree. Now, looking back, it fits. It fits.
I also think that she does have that Wonder Woman look in her.
As far as the character, they did a good job representing her as she was in the 1980s. To me, I look as Diana as part of Hank's companion when Hank couldn't take the lead. That was just my thought, because to me, her and Hank were almost on the same wavelengths as far as leading, taking charge, needing to see what needs to be done, and just do it. And for the benefit of the rest of the party. That's what I've always got from Diana, is the strong leader that she could be when Hank couldn't. So that's my final thoughts. They did a really good job. I got more information on the dice now. I understand more why it's called the way it is. Thanks to our expert here. And so that's pretty much it. And y'all take care. I appreciate y'all. Me and Colton appreciate y'all. And now I'm going to let our last guest speaker do his final thoughts on it. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think that this action figure, even with a little bit of a lean, and that might just be, we got the one with the messed up boot. Yours might not come like this. That was really, I think, my only thing about it. I understand why they don't do more of a cloth fur, and they just went with plastic. I am surprised they don't have more of like a premium figure that has all the cool things that we've seen kind of with Transformers. You know, they make really expensive ones that have everything, all the bells and whistles. So I was actually surprised they didn't release that with these. But I think the figure looks great. Looks just like the character, and when you have it with the whole party, it looks good all together.
So, I think that is about it. So, there you have it. The Dungeons and Dragons Diana. And if you like this video, give us a like, comment, and subscribe for more. And if you want to check out some other videos you may have missed, there's a playlist set up on my YouTube channel. So, I think that's about it. So, thanks for watching.